So a little bit about me. Thank you for that great bio. I'm going to just skip over this then pretty much, but I went to Yale, got a history degree, served as student body president. Now I consider myself the Gen Z historian, which is something I've made up. No one ever called me that actually, but it is a part of the branding, which we'll go into later. And I have around 550,000 followers across TikTok, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Those are my main platforms, though I have a Twitter account. I just don't use it because I hate Twitter and maybe like a few other things as well. So on top of my TikTok, which you can see on the right of the screen, where I have most of my followers in the personal brand that I've done for myself, I've also done social media work for other organizations and other projects. So what you'll see at the top left is Rhymes with a Reason, which is an organization that teaches kids vocabulary through hip hop and popular music. They're like an ed tech startup, Black owned business. And I actually made a TikTok about Michelle Obama, of all people, and how one of her speeches looked down on Black kids and didn't really address why a lot of Black kids weren't engaged with school, and how a better sort of thing that she could have done is sponsoring an organization like Rhymes with Reason. And then that went viral. Rhymes with Reason reached out to me, and I did a project to grow their social media accounts and get them a partnership with the Boys and Girls Clubs of America. So that was something that was really cool, but that's like something outside of my own personal branding and like the Kahlil aspect that I've worked on in terms of growing social media. And then underneath that, you'll see Yale Vibes, which is an Instagram account that has 5,400 followers that I started about 2 years ago during the pandemic. And it was an idea that I always had in the back of my mind. Like I used to walk around campus and just take pictures because I thought campus was just like really pretty. Yale's campus was just so nice and sunny sometimes. The architecture was really beautiful. But I never really manifested that idea until summer of 2020, even before I created my TikTok. And I created Yale Vibes completely anonymously, nothing related to me either. Got a few other people that were artists or photographers on campus. And then just as a passion project, no brand deals or sponsorships or anything like that, created Yale Vibes and grew it to 5,000 followers. And it's only periodically we post. We don't really even use it that much. But because of the quality of the content, which I'll get into later, it's a thriving social media account outside of the Kahlil Greene Gen Z historian experience. So I'm pretty much going to go into the process of social media content creation, growing your platform. And I've broken it down into three main parts, I guess, like timelines. The first is, of course, just starting out, which will take up the like vast majority of this presentation. The second one is initial growth. So like after you start making content, what do you do to keep it going? And the third one, which is really just a slide because it might not concern a lot of people right now, and something that I'm trying to change myself, is just like, how do you go to unstoppable? What's like the end game for a huge platform on social media? And from these three sorts of ways of categorizing your time as a influencer or educator or content creator, whatever you want to call yourself, and that's how you can think about different stages of growth and what you might need to prioritize or think about in each stage. So we're going to start off with probably the next 5-ish slides are probably the most important things that you can take away from this presentation. This slide might be number one. I think there's another slide that's competing with it, which I'll get to later. But this slide is about understanding the algorithm. Understanding the algorithm. This is why the algorithm is why social media is so hard to understand, why everyone's wants to be an influencer but doesn't know how, why brands are falling apart. All these things are because of the algorithm. So the algorithm, for anyone who doesn't know, the way that it works, let's say I'm TikTok. TikTok is a very easy platform to understand. The way that TikTok works is that when you open up the app, you're shown a video. You don't choose this video. You don't search it. You don't really do anything except there's a video that just pops up on your screen and you can either watch it or swipe to the next video. And there's a few other things you can do to it as well. But that's like the main thing. You get shown a video that just comes to your face. The algorithm is what determines which video shows up in front of you. For TikTok, it's all about videos. For Instagram, it's pictures. For Twitter, it's tweets and like small 140 character word vomits. Facebook, it's like usually pictures, also videos. And for different platforms, it's different things. But basically, there's content, there's videos. Content is like videos, pictures, tweets, whatever it is that shows up to your face. And the algorithm is what decides what shows up. A successful content creator, so someone like myself, is someone who can create a video, post a tweet, post a picture, and have it show up to a lot of people. This is because we're winning on the algorithm. We create content. The algorithm from these companies' point of view says that's good content, and it shows it to a lot of people. That's how you go viral. That's how you grow your platform. That's pretty much the key. This is why I'm saying it's one of the most important slides. To do, you have to understand the algorithm. Now, a few key points about understanding the algorithm. Every platform, and a platform is basically like an app. Facebook, TikTok, LinkedIn, Instagram, they each have different algorithms and different ways of deciding whose content, whose videos, whose all those things they're going to show to who, right? So one of the easiest ways of understanding the algorithm is just understanding that if you post a video and people press the like button on your video, it'll probably be seen to more people. If you post a video and people comment on your video, it'll likely be seen by more people. The algorithm is going to push it out. If you post a video and people follow you from it, they share it, if they watch it over and over, these things are going to help you in the algorithm. That's the main thing. If you get these, or what we're calling engagements, so everything that you see in this list is called an engagement. It's a way of engaging with the content. The more people engage with your videos, the better you do on the algorithm. Please put any questions in the chat. I can revisit that at the end, but that's one of the most key things in this whole presentation. You have to understand the algorithm. Now, let's talk about engagement. So all these engagements are over here, but they're not all equal in terms of how much they make you, how well they boost you in the algorithm, right? So a like, for example, this hypothetical, if someone likes your video, it might be seen to one more, the algorithm might decide to show your video to one more person. Whereas if someone shares your video, the algorithm might show your video to 100 more people. That's a hypothetical. It's not exactly like that, but some of these engagements are worth more, quote unquote, are worth more than other ones. Usually speaking, more often than not, shares are very valuable. If someone sees your video and they take the link and they send it to their friend, because it invites more people onto that app, it's very highly valued. Another one for TikTok that's super highly valued is watch time. So if people are watching your video over and over and over and over again, that's very valuable, and your video will get shown to a lot more people. So these engagements are all very important. Memorize them, write them down, understand that nobody actually specifically knows which one is the most valuable or how they compare or anything like that. These are private companies and they make money by being secretive about their algorithm. But just know that everyone's best guess is how they approach algorithm, and the people who have a better understanding and a better sort of intuition on what does well are the people who go viral more often than anyone else. The rest of this presentation will be teaching you about how to do well on the algorithm. Quick disclaimer before we jump into the rest of this presentation. I have two. The first one is that social media replicates social issues. So a lot of my content and how I've gotten big on social media is just from stuff that I've really talked about my entire life, but I'm now able to put on a TikTok. And that's the idea of cultural appropriation and favoritism and bias and systemic disenfranchisement from influencers who come from marginalized communities, whether it be Black and bi POC influencers, LGBTQ plus influencers. Sexism is super prevalent, probably one of the biggest drivers of disparities in social media, and just so many other isms, right? Every social issue that exists in the real world is replicated on social media. That's just a quick, it's a disclaimer. My work tries to combat it. There's no perfect solution to get around it, but it is something that everyone should be aware of. Social media is problematic, more or less. These algorithms have biases just like people do. That's a really important takeaway. Another thing that's really important in terms of disclaimer related to social media is that social media is very bad for your mental health. Full stop, right? The way that algorithms work is that they'll make you go viral one day, and the next day they won't show your content to anyone because they don't deem it. I'm talking about the algorithm as a person, which I'll do from now on. I'll personify it. But the algorithm, the gatekeeper of whose content it gets shown, might not like your content one day, So they don't show it to anyone. And then you see that you have 0 views and you thought you were doing so well. And then now you're really sad and you don't want to post anything. And you just feel like everything you've done and all the work you put into a video was for nothing. And then you break down. And this is why we have this New York Times article called "Young Creators Are Burning Out and Breaking Down. Many people who have found fame on TikTok are struggling with mental health issues." This is also one of those unavoidable things because it's, as a whole, pretty toxic, but social media does mess with your mental health. That's something to be very aware of. But I'm not saying that to discourage anyone. I'm assuming all of you have reasons to want to get into social media or growing your platform. And I just want to say, with those reasons and with all the benefits, there are costs, and those are costs that you should be aware of before getting into it. Okay, so now we're going to get into maybe the second most important slide. And this is about deciding your content. What do you want to do? What do you want to post? Why do you be on the social media? Number one is just determining what that is, right? There are people who make art. There are people who do commentary like myself. In another account that I post, I just wanted to post pretty pictures of Yale. There's a lot of different spaces in terms of content creation that you can go into. So understand what sorts of content do you want to create. Do you want to post videos of yourself talking that would do well on TikTok? Do you want to do 15, like TikTok is 3 minutes or less in terms of the videos that you can post. So do you want to do an hour-long video that you want to post on YouTube? Do you want to play video games and have people watch you play video games and use Twitch for that, right? Like, understand, or at least have some idea on what you want to do. The second point is probably the most, other than the algorithms, this is the most valuable, like, specific bullet point. Everything about social media really comes down to research and understanding what other people are doing. And one way that I do this is I have a burner account, which is just an account that I make with like a fake email. It can be your main account, but it just might like mess up your algorithm or videos that you want to see actually. But I have one account that I made on TikTok, and all I do is just follow other like social justice commenters and other people who make similar commentary. And it's really like entertaining for me because I like actually watching that content. Like I really appreciate it. But then I also get an idea of what are people talking about? What sounds are being used? I don't really use sounds anymore. When I started out, I was like, oh, like a lot of people are doing their commentary on Glory, which is a song from a movie about Martin Luther King Jr. The algorithm might see that I use that song and then show it to that audience, and then I would do well on the algorithm. So there are trends that people are doing. If you're like a dance TikToker or whatever you want to be, like there are trends that are going viral. And if you just hop on that trend, you might go viral instantly just because you're aware of what other people are doing. Hashtags that people are using. That's really important. Overall, just topics of conversation. You need to be doing research. You need to research. You need to know who else is in your field. If you found one person that you like who's doing something that you would want to do, go to their follows and see who they're following, see who is following them, right? Do your research and just curate a sort of pool, like a diet maybe of like content that you can just absorb of people in your peer groups that you know what's going on. That is so important. And that's something that's so overlooked and so skipped. But every content creator that I know does that. And oftentimes later on, as you grow, these people also become your friends and people that you can collaborate with. So it's important in so many regards. Third thing is also so important, and is really a differentiator between people who make it and don't, or one of the most important ones. Obviously, there's so many things, but you really need to know what you're doing that's unique or niche or new, right? A lot of people can go on TikTok and just do a dance, and some people can do a dance, do something absolutely like cliche and stale and boring and still make it on TikTok, especially because of those biases that I talked about earlier, right? Like people can go on with no talent and still make it. But for the rest of the people out there, a lot of times you'll need some sort of niche or a unique offering. One idea is a talent synergy. So if you like to draw and you like to rap, you can somehow put them together. If you like to do backflips and you're also really interested in cooking, I don't know how, but actually there is a creator, and I probably will find them, but they do these like action scenes where they're cooking at the same time and like do special effects. I can't remember their name, but it actually does exist. It's just crazy enough that I thought of that. But you can synergize your talents, right? Another thing that you can do is just look at what people are doing and find ways of improving on it in an important way. So this is the reason that I got into like commentary, because I saw a lot of people like I used to watch all types of like political commentary and political debates and stuff like that. And I would see people have these debates or do commentary and they would be good. But I was like, okay, if I wanted to show this to my mom, she probably wouldn't understand. If I wanted to show this to someone that disagreed with me, they'd probably pick holes in it. If I wanted to show this to a kid who didn't know anything better about race or history or anything, they probably wouldn't be able to grasp what's being said because a lot of it is tied up in like academic, sociological concepts. And there's nothing inherently wrong with that at all. But I thought that I could offer something by breaking things down in like my own oratorical style and with references and topics that I am aware of and I care about. Like I saw people talking about, for example, like cultural appropriation more generally. But then I saw like this TikTok trend where people go like this and say sheesh and all that. It's a hot mess, right? But I saw that and I was like, hey, like I can make commentary about that specific thing as it relates to cultural appropriation. So that will be the unique video that I make. I saw people posting MLK quotes on MLK Day that were more radical, but I didn't see anyone necessarily tie that to the fact of like why people only post non-radical pacifistic MLK quotes on MLK Day. And there's a lot of context missing behind that. But for anyone who doesn't know, that's the type of content that I create. And that's the niche that I saw. And of course, there's like the C component, which is an entirely new perspective, something that people aren't doing, right? I don't know anyone who like looks at dirt in the ground and then makes jewelry out of it, which like, I'm sure there are, like, there's probably not even that out there, but there's a lot of different things that just also don't exist that people are really interested in. And that's also something that you can offer through social media. So you really need to spend a lot of time deciding your content by looking at what's out there, doing so much research, and then finding the gap that does not exist and then understanding how you can fill that gap. So I'll use 3 sort of examples of content creators for the hypotheticals that I'm going to reference for the rest of the speech. So it's not just based on my own content. Let's say the first one is an artist, as you can see on the side. The second one wants to do commentary around activism or advocacy, something like that. And the third one's personal finance, right? Like these are things that are somewhat saturated, somewhat accessible. A lot of people are interested in, but if I were starting out today, if I had no platform, what would I do? Like, how would I get to this point? So one really important topic and takeaway, I would recommend reading this book if you can, but it's called Show Your Work. And basically the thesis of this book is that as you're creating content, as you're building a platform, as you're growing whatever product or business you want to create, or just like passion project, whatever it is, whatever innovation it is, document your process. And that becomes content within itself that's worth posting, right? So if what was my first thing? Art, right? Like art is very easy to understand that there's a process of getting better. One of the most viral posts of any artist is like their before after. This is me in 2011 and I have a sketch and it's just like really bad. Like the face is all messed up, blah, 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 blah. And then 10 years later, it's just like magnificent. Like that's just a documentation of their process that's being posted. With social justice commentary, like a lot of people that post are people just reading books, right? They'll read a really profound book, renowned book, right? And then they'll say, oh my gosh, this is so interesting. I learned these 10 points. That's something that they would have done otherwise, but they're just posting that and making content out of it because they're documenting their process. That's just one of the easiest ways to source content. I'll use the last one, personal finance. Let's say there's someone who majored in econ, but they're going around to their parents and trying to teach them about certain things. And their dad doesn't understand how to file taxes. And you just document, oh, I had this conversation and tell them this and this. These are things that you're already doing, but you're just showing your work. It's like, you can't just, if someone asks you like, what, like 5 times 5, what does that equal? And you're in first grade, you have to show how you got to the answer. Like you get points off if you don't. It's just like that, but for content creation. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, moving on. So one thing to recognize is that content is king. Content is king. You have to have good content above all else. Content, quality of your content is king. A lot of people will come to me and ask me, what hashtags do I use? What time do I post? What sound? All of these things are entirely subsidiary to having just good content, whether that's a funny tweet or a profound and useful TikTok video or a Instagram picture that's just like very well taken or Instagram slideshow that just has really good information. that content is king. And even if you post for 5 years and you get absolutely zero views, zero followers, but you have good content, all it takes is one viral post for people to just come to your channel or whatever it is and see a wealth of good content and want to follow you. Good content is an investment. If you have poor content, it's bad. Like if bad content that you don't put a lot of effort into, that you don't have any niche for, you're just copying other people, you're plagiarizing them, whatever the case may be, it shows, and it might have a temporary virality to it, but it does not grow your platform. We're all about growing our platform. So content is king. So I'm going to, in reference to the 3 examples I used before about an artist, someone doing social commentary, and personal finance, I have 3 pieces of content I just want to analyze how these influencers put their own niche on it that made them worthy of having or saying that they have valuable content. So let's start with art.
How do you draw a dreadlock? Yeah. I'ma stitch it out, dark shadows in, tip for the shady. Then you blend out and shit, draw a stud for the rain. Third lines for the girls and draw eyebrows. And then you draw your lips with lines and add some eyes. I think it's how we draw some more. With a faded line and got vertical line. Rented on the side. You can find about the middle of the night. Y'all curve line that your beats. Stop it.
Okay, like you guys get the point, right? You go out here, right? Thumbs up. Okay, perfect. So this person is not only a great, amazing artist, but they're also rapping to a song, wrote an entire rap over a song that we know, and they're like rhyming with the instructions on what to draw, right? That's good. That's just objectively good content. It was a lot of dedication, a lot of creativity, a lot of talent there. That's how you go viral, for example. The next one is not necessarily so profound, but I think they do something that is really highlight.
No, sounds of it. How to be a better white person. I'm fine, trying to spray this revert. How to be a better person. Step 1. I'm researched for the pound committed by black people producing aggressive races. Step 2. Stop blaming everything on systemic racism because things aren't the way that you want them to be. Step 3. Stop talking about versions where the only race of people that are being oppressed. Jews have been oppressed for millennia. They still get all okay. Oh. Stop generalizing about white people while disliking generalizations like but commit crimes that similar race or black people are 3 times more likely of being convicted. Sprinkling context in the studies also show more specifically that black and white people use at the same rates have of black people are a hell of more times likely to being arrested for it. Step 2, not the European bred denied systemic racism acting like his home country didn't have a big hand in inventing the shit. So he gonna insult my intelligence and
okay, they cuss. I didn't know this happened. But we're all adults. And I think the important thing to show from that is that consciously, he's a social justice commentator. One thing that he does a lot of people don't do is that he shows the videos of the people he's about to debate before he gets into it. I do my own commentary. I rarely ever engage with other people. I just make the ideas on my head and I like maybe use pictures or something, but he will show like that person saying these sort of racist and uninformed opinions. And I think he knows this, but it's also important for what he's doing. That it like riles up his audience. It's not just giving the commentary. It's putting a person that you can debate and going bar for bar on each point that they're making. And it's because Conscious Lee used to be a debate team captain and a debate coach, I think in his home state of Oklahoma, if I'm not mistaken. So that's like the content that he's creating. That's the niche. A debate. It's like not just commentary. It's not just showing. It's like he's debating these conservatives on TikTok and he's very like zooming in, zooming out, right? Like, there's so many things to see of what he's doing to just take note for how he's going about it and like how his niche exists. And this last one is just an Instagrammer for personal. And her name is Mrs. Dow Jones. And there's this meme that she put where it's like, when you said you're okay with risky investments, but you meant only if those investments do well. So it's like funny. I don't know. It's like probably funny for her audience. It's a picture of Regina George. She's synergizing this pop culture aspect with personal finance. She's not just saying, actually just make sure that you are aware that risky investments might do good and sometimes it might do bad. And that you're just taking note of this. Like, it's not just a straightforward, boring piece of advice. It's a meme. It's a funny meme that's communicating this piece of content about risk investments, right? So these are just 3 examples that show that content really is king when it comes to social media. And that the synergies that I was mentioning, so the talent synergy, art plus rapping, the important improvement, going point for point, debating a conservative, or the entirely new perspective. We didn't really have one in that example, but just like showing pop culture as personal finance, like these are things that create good content. And once again, content is king. Content is king. And just for anyone who doesn't know, if you want to write this down, the three main qualities of good content that I pretty much use for myself, and of course there are different ways you could think about it, but some of the three main pieces of content or qualities of good content: is it novel? Is it new? Is something you're not seeing everyone else doing? Because if you're doing what everyone else is doing, you might go viral once, but you're not going to build an audience. Number two, is it entertaining? If you were scrolling through and you're like about to go to sleep, would it stop your thumb? And I get into the next slide, but would you stop to watch it? Are the first few seconds captivating your attention? Is it a topic that you want to learn more about? Is it advice that you might use? Is it entertaining? Are you being entertained by it? Are you laughing? Are you having some sort of emotional reaction? And the last thing, and not everyone's content necessarily fits into this specifically, but is it useful? I can do commentary about history because I've done a history degree and I like really love talking about Black history. And there's a lot of ways I can teach about it and a lot of stories I can go into, but I try to teach it in a way that's useful, that might be shareable for someone who doesn't have context on a relevant political issue, like critical race theory, the anti-CRT movement. Like I make a video related to that, that shows why it exists and how there's a history of this marginalization in education because it's useful in current conversation. There's a lot of food bloggers who can make really good food. And there's a difference between just making the food and just showing people and making the food, just taking a few more seconds to add ingredients to the bottom and maybe a bit of like a menu and showing your steps and your process as you do it in the video. Like these are things that are small, but it makes it more novel, it makes it more entertaining, and it makes it more useful. And that's really the markers of good content. So this is something I also hope you take away, but if all else fails, think about what content would stop your thumb. So as you're scrolling, what would stop your thumb? What would like make you stop if you came across it? And you just honestly have to be harsh to yourselves. People are going to be harsh to you on social media. So I understand and take pride in a lot of the work and the effort that you're putting into it. But if you're seeing yourself not go viral, don't always try to blame it on the world. Though, once again, these biases do exist and algorithms do target people, as been proven. So there are times where it's definitely true. But for your own sake, sometimes it might be helpful to maybe creatively reinvent how you're approaching the content, how you're formatting it, what you're talking about, because creativity can more often than not overcome at least some of the barriers that arrive when it comes to growing your platform. So now we're going to get more into like posting and all of these things. The first thing you want to do right before you post is, of course, determine what platform you're going to use. There are so many different options. Each one has different, once again, algorithm, audience, types of influencers that are usually on them. I find, and a lot of my friends find, that the best one to start out with is TikTok. And by best, our definition is like the one for gaining a large platform at the onset. TikTok videos can go viral. My first TikTok, I just posted it with not my name attached. I had a pseudonym. I posted on MLK Day and I got 1.3 million views, like on the first day. So there's a higher potential for reaching a lot of people on TikTok. That's why I do prefer it. And I think the video content aspect of it allows you to be creative, but also like, you know, put in a lot of energy because it's only 1 to 3 minute videos anyway. I really do like TikTok. Instagram is more visual. A lot more people are on it. However, it is more saturated. And there's so many other things. LinkedIn is more for professionals, though people are not influencing on LinkedIn. So there's a much more wider market for you. And I think it's just, there's research to be done outside of it. I'm not going to go into each and every platform, but it is worthwhile to determine what platform you want to use. As an intuitive recommendation from my own perspective, TikTok is a great one. Instagram is pretty good. And LinkedIn as well. And also very much be aware that there are platforms that also act as safe spaces for marginalized communities. So one of them I'm going to give a shout out to is Fanbase, which is a sort of TikTok adjacent social media platform that has Black creators in mind at the forefront of how it's programmed and how it's marketed. So be aware that these platforms that are big conglomerates are not the only one, though in terms of numbers, candidly, they will probably get you in front of more people if you want your message to reach a lot of people. So as you start posting, let's say like you get your first few posts in there, You want to keep this in mind. Once again, no matter how hard it is, no matter how much engagement's happening at the onset, quality is important, the most important. Nothing else is more important than quality. You have to create quality content. It's all about the quality, how novel, entertaining, how useful. Quality. That's number one. Number two is consistency, which is also important. You want to post, like whether it be weekly, you want to stick to weekly. If it's going to be daily, it's going to be hard, but you can stick to daily. If it's going to be monthly, do that. Whatever it is, consistency. It's like going to the gym or working out. Like the people who fail are not the people who don't lift a million weights and change their diet and all these things, right? It's the people who don't build consistency into what they're doing. So consistency is really important. And then quantity is like the least important thing for me. You don't have to post every other hour to get a lot of views. It's not always about quantity. Some people do that, and usually their quality is pretty high as well because the type of content they're making might be comedy. So it's easy to come up with and post a lot. But more often than not, people who flip this sort of graphic and put quantity and then consistency and then quality last don't grow. And that's something that I've very much seen across you want to keep tabs on what engages people and what doesn't. And this goes into researching and seeing what your peers are doing. And or seeing what people you look up to doing, but as you grow, they start to become your peers. So you want to build a network with them. You want to reach out. I did a really cool collaboration. You can see in the bottom, the Black History Trivia live event, the only graphic in the bottom that's not blue. And that was with Taylor Cassidy. That was with Consciously, who you just saw a video from, and Alexis Nicole, who's a Black forager, right? So these are peers of mine who don't necessarily always create the same content, but people that I just like really do looked up to. Now I'm like my peers, and I still look up to them, of course, but you want to build networks, understand what's going on, understand what's working. When there's algorithm or a change in TikTok that's suppressing Black creators and Black views, Black creators are not getting views, it's only through these networks that we realize that it's not just our individual content that's being banned or shadow banned, which means the algorithm doesn't show it. We realize that it's more people. So collective action, building a network is so important. And then as you grow too, you want to become more visual with your brand. You want to make it so that people have a specific thing that they memorize when they see you. Some people go as far as like dye their hair or have an insane background, whatever it is, right? I do it through two main things. My Instagram feed has like these blue, white, and red sort of graphics on them, like cute to like American colors. So I talk about American history, but then also like a chalkboard-esque, like educational aesthetic as well. Like these may not be things that people associate right away, but like they do remember this color, right? Or remember like the way that my video is styled, the graphic and the title. That's not clickbaity. It is clickbaity, but it also is about what I'm talking about. And they'll remember my content. And you want to build a visual brand over time so that people recognize you and who you are. The second way that I do this is I always have wired headphones. I just prefer wired headphones, but I have the mic near my mouth. And my dad texted me the other day. He was like, "Why do you hold your headphones like that? It looks so awkward." I didn't respond, but the reason for you guys, I'll respond to you, is one, the mic audio is better when you hold it to your mouth, but also it's part of my brand now. I like it. Like I think it's fun. I like seeing these screenshots and like holding on to that remnant of me not knowing what I was doing when I first started, but like now it's become part of my brand. Okay, we only have 2 more slides left before we get into the Q&A. We're going to end at 6:15-ish, but one thing that also is important as you start becoming more consistent and as you start building your platform is the creation of a content calendar. One easy way to plan out your content. A content calendar may be an Excel spreadsheet or a notes app, whatever it is, but just like something that you can use to write out what content you might post in advance. The easiest way that every content creator, no matter if you're doing like cats or social justice or arts or personal finance, tie your content to specific events, seasons, annual celebrations, etc. On Valentine's Day, post about something related to Valentine's Day. On President's Day, I posted last year about George Washington and how he stole his teeth from slaves, which is obviously not the same thing that someone else would post on President's Day. But I felt like calling out US presidents at that time. So it was very topical. And I think just having that sort of association with something that's happening is really important. Something else that I do is I list all my ideas, no matter what they are, when they could be posted in this huge document. Like I have a huge document that's, okay, I want to talk about this thing. I want to talk about K-pop in this next video, and then talk about African-American vernacular English here, and then talk about the prison industrial complex here, right? If I come up with a good idea or just even like a topic that I want to talk about, I write it down And then later on, if I'm sitting and planning my content calendar, or if I just want to make a video on the whim, I have a bunch of ideas to draw from. And every time I make a video, I always put it in like the title of that video in the idea thing in case I want to revisit that concept. I started talking about cultural appropriation as it happens with Gen Zers last year in May, and that went super viral. And I just got bored of talking about it and for the sake of other issues related to Juneteenth education, other things that were happening in the summer. And then this past month, a famous celebrity, Aquafina, posted an apology for using VE and pretty much appropriating African-American dialects. And I was like, oh, wait, like I had all these videos I was going to post last year, but like I didn't want to. So now I'm just going to release all of them and just have so much content, right? So just always write your ideas down. And the last thing is there's a website called Answer the Public, which is really good for any content creator. The way that it works is that you can put a topic in there and it shows the questions that are being asked by people on the internet about that topic. So if I posted about, I'm just looking at stuff in my room, like lamps, right? Like it might show, okay, the number one thing search on Google was how are lamps made? Another one might be like, what type of lampshade is the best? Another one might be like, how do lamps work? How is electrical? So if you're obsessed with lamps, you have questions to build content off of. So that it's useful. Once again, remember, novel, entertaining, useful. So it's useful for people. If you want to make it about art, questions is like, how do I get started in art? How do I start drawing? Who are the best artists? These are questions that you can answer across all different types of content. So Answer the Public, just as a very specific resource, has been invaluable for so many content creators when coming up with ideas for their content calendar. Okay, and this is pretty much the last slide when it comes to growth before we get into the Q&A, but later on, like the stage that I'm in now is that I find myself in a later growth stage because I'm doing content collaborations, brand deals, mostly from like nonprofits related to advocacy, as well as educational organizations. So that's why I sustain myself. That's why I'm full time. I was going to go into consulting before this, would have been terrible for me. But luckily now I am in this full time social media educational space and I get to do brand deals with companies that I care about, that have ethics that I support and a lot of other things. And I'm generally just full time. And I think that's something that a lot of people can aspire to. It might not be very easily understandable and accessible at the onset. But once again, hopefully this presentation gave you a sort of clarity on how you reach that point in your life. And once again, content quality is everything. Content is king. So shameless plug. Here's my Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, and Twitter. Here, feel free to follow me. That would be very helpful and you'll get more content from me. But for now, we're going to jump into the Q&A.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kahlil. I know I learned a lot. Really appreciate your knowledge and insight. Do you want to start? We have a couple questions that came into the chat. So we'll start with those. And then if people have questions, is it okay if they raise their hands and then they can just speak them to you?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So starting off in the chat. So one question that came in is, how do the social media platforms regard users playing to their algorithms? Do they try and thwart that in some way or do they encourage it?
There are aspects of playing into the algorithm that they support and aspects that they don't. They support the more honorable ones. So like having better content, using hashtags that might be more relevant to what you're posting. So if I'm posting a dance and I use hashtag dance, I'm playing into the algorithm, but I'm doing it in an ethical sort of way. Whereas if I'm doing dance, I know there's like really famous movie coming out and I just like hashtag that movie because I think people will see it. Then sometimes it works, obviously, but a lot of times it doesn't. And also like having fake people comment, having your friends comment all first and everything, like they start to realize that and they might work against it. But on all of these social media platform pages, they usually have like a how-to or a help where they show at least a little bit of the ways that you can boost your position in the algorithm that they accept, quote unquote.
Awesome. Thank you for answering that. Another question that came in is around the building your content part of your workshop. What if you don't want to niche yourself? And you said that was one key element, but what if you're interested in maybe several kind of areas? How do you approach that?
I think that's a great question. The answer I want to say is that you don't have to niche yourself and you can explore all the things you are interested in. The reality is that's a lot harder to do because of how algorithms work nowadays. Before maybe 2015 to 2019, it might have worked. But TikTok, I guess to talk about the platforms, TikTok is like the popular person that everyone's looking up to, that all the other algorithms and platforms are looking up to. The way that TikTok works is that they value a niche. They value you doing one thing and you doing it over and over with a little bit of variety. In my case, that's social justice commentary. In other people's cases, dance, art, whatever it is, they value that. Other platforms used to value diversified content. Now, because TikTok is making the most money, everyone's looking at TikTok and they say, oh, TikTok is doing well because it has people and it pushes people who do the same thing over and over. So now everyone else needs to be doing the same thing over and over. Capitalism, all these other drivers, whatever you want to blame. Unfortunately, that's the way that it is. And I think starting out, you can just niche on one thing. And if you really want to do something else, creating a different account might be the best way. So I have Yale vibes because I'm not going to post pictures of Yale on my personal account, like maybe more than once. It would just be weird because I have this brand built already. But I do really like looking at pictures of Yale. So I made Yale vibes so I could just diversify it and have them not attached to each other.
Awesome. All right, Derek, I am going to unmute you. You can ask your question.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Thank you so much. First of all, thank you for this workshop. I really appreciate it. Second thing is, I am a mental health awareness coordinator for a nonprofit, right? So a couple topics that I teach on are somewhat unpopular. So I teach a lot about suicide awareness. I do some mental health wellness techniques, training, stuff like that nature. Do you have any suggestions for people like me who our niche might be a little bit more less popular? Because I'm doing trainings on suicide awareness.
Yeah. I definitely wouldn't disregard how necessary that sort of content is right now. I think there might not be a lot of people talking about it, but there definitely are some. So I would first step, research, see the people. And I think it's just about tying it to important topics, right? It might not be on everyone's waking mind as they're walking around, the idea of suicide prevention, if it's not something big deal with on their own in their own lives. Yeah. But that New York Times article that I showed in the beginning showed that TikTokers generally are facing horrible mental health. A lot of people in that, also trigger warning for anyone, but a lot of people in that talk about suicidal ideation as it relates to TikTok and influencing. So the idea of social media and influencers is always top of mind for people. Always. It always will be for the next foreseeable future until we enter the metaverse or something. What you're talking about is also top of mind for a lot of people. But if you want to connect it to what's top of mind in a lot of audiences, hey, did you know that social media drives mental health like into the gutter? Here's what you can do to be sustainable in when you post and when you become a social media influencer. So it's about tying the concepts you want to talk about to things that are top of mind for everyone. And also when it comes to Valentine's Day or like all these other like celebrations annually, tying your concepts to that is also important as well.
So tie your concepts to topics that are already present on people's minds.
Exactly.
Got you. Thank you.
Of course.
Grady, another question that came in is, do you think boosting, so paying, I guess, like Instagram and other sites on, do you think boosting is worth it? So I guess paying uplift your posts.
I think it's not a hard no. I think I'm going to say a soft no. I think boosting is really good for large brands who everyone already knows. Like if Nike wanted to do a campaign where they're showing this new shoe, they should boost that because the money that they put into boosting it will be made back because they're selling a product. Everyone knows what Nike is. It's all about getting more eyes to see it. A content creator who's just starting out, their goal shouldn't just be to get eyes. It should be to have quality content. So maybe if you make like a month's worth of quality content and then you know that one of your posts is like really good, but you just don't have the network to get it out and get it seen, it wouldn't be the worst idea. I'm not gonna say it's gonna be the worst idea to like boost it and have people join. Though I do think it's like a sort of, it's not a sustainable sort of like way of engagement. So you don't want to boost it once and then you get 1 billion views hypothetically, and then your next video doesn't do as much. And then you want to boost again and boost again. Like it can become an addiction sort of way. And I would avoid it for that reason because you want to build your growth and your platform off of sustainability and ways of building a platform that are more replicable over time.
So another question that has come in is, how do you initiate brand deals, or do they normally approach you?
So we'll actually talk about this at the end, but I do have another workshop free for everyone. Of course, please attend, but it's called Monetizing Your Platform. And we'll go all into how you build a sustainable career for social media. Though more often than not, when you have a large enough platform, brands will approach you. So you have I'll talk about this once again. The next thing, I have a little website that you can fill in a form for. So brands will usually approach you. And then in the case that they don't, there are apps that you can sign up for that have information that will connect you to brands based on your own niche on social media.
Great. Yeah. So everyone look out for the next workshop. We're really excited to have you again to share on that. Another question. I think we have time for just a couple more too.
Yeah.
But can you talk more about what you have learned about the biases coded into the algorithms and how that has impacted specific groups of people by suppressing their content?
Yeah. I'll give a very quick example. It was found out, this is beyond a shadow of a doubt, there's documentation around this, that TikTok had either suppressed or somehow like a glitched. And a lot of the people who were making content about George Floyd's killing, when it first happened in 2020, their videos, which would have normally gotten thousands of views, were just getting like 0 views for a long time. And there's a question of whether or not TikTok mistakenly thought it was like racist, race baiting content. There's a question if, just generally speaking, a lot of people didn't want to see police brutality advocacy, so they swiped and it was just more on the viewer's side, the audience's side. Whatever it is, there's no way to really dissect it, though there is a lot of research and speculation on it. People who were posting about George Floyd as Black creators advocating for that specific topic, their content was not shown to people at the rate that their normal content would have been shown. So this is like a clear discrepancy on the behalf of the algorithm, because it's not just one person. That content was being suppressed. More specifically, a lot of my videos get banned because I might show a minstrel show and have commentary on it, and TikTok flags it mistakenly, and then my stuff gets taken down. Those are more just like issues of content creators talking about racial justice. On the other side of that, there's a sort of privilege, especially white privilege, a lot of white influencers have, where someone like Jalaiah Harmon, who's a choreographer from Atlanta, created the Renegade dance, which is like a viral dance trend that was on TikTok, and anyone who was doing it would get millions and millions of views. Specifically, a white TikToker named Charlie D'Amelio did the Renegade dance and got boosted and is now millions and millions of dollars far from where she started out, and has so many more brand deals than Jalaiah, who actually invented the dance. And that's largely because of systemic bias, whether it be directly from the algorithm's point of view or the viewers, that boosted a white creator over a Black creator. So these are the ways that it's encoded. And I'll say something else. I think another bias that you see is that when it comes to attacking like the personhood, like ad hominems of like how the person looks, or just like anything about their content, I think there is a general understanding that women face that a lot more than men, and other gender minorities as well. Or gender minorities and women face that more than men. So that's also another form of oppression and bias that's reinforced in social media.
Thank you for that insight. Another question I know I had is, what would you say is the greatest challenge in terms of when you're getting started with building your social media brand?
It's thinking about what content is good content. That's the hardest thing. After that, it's being consistent and not feeling down when you put a lot of work into a post but people don't see. Between those two things, I think those are the hardest for sure. And I'll give quick solutions. The first one is, once again, do so much research that you don't want to even look at TikTok anymore. And you'll have enough ideas of worth replicating, inspiration. You could take what's good, discard what's bad, and come up with what's completely your own. I think that's like a Bruce Lee quote or something. So that's important. And then the second part is just like having that faith that good content is good content. Create content that would stop your thumb that you want to see, because if nobody else sees it, at least you can rewatch your own content and get a little kick, get a little laugh from it, or just feel happy doing it. I think that's a really important goal that you should have.
I also want to make a quick announcement because we're at the hour. So Thursday, that's tomorrow, February 24th, from 11 to 1:30 a.m., there'll be drop-ins for group consultation with Kahlil. And the Zoom link will be sent through Eventbrite. You can just hop on. And if you have any questions, you can have a more intimate conversation with Kahlil on how to grow your platform. And then Wednesday, March 9th, same time, 5:30 to 6:30, Innovators Toolkit, monetizing your platform. And that will take us to the hour. We have a few more questions, but I figure we could ask those in the consultation, right?
Yeah, and a lot of these are about, it seems like a few of them are like related to like managers and agencies. And I'll talk more about that when it comes to monetizing.
Yeah. Oh, yes. It's 11 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., not a.m. All right. All right. Thank you all so much.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much, Neil.
Bye.
Bye-bye.